If you were deciding between getting a printer that uses bottled ink or regular standard ink cartridges, stay tuned because today that's what we're going to be talking about. Hey YouTube, what is going on? Brandon here with another printer related video. Today I wanted to touch on a topic of bottled ink versus standard ink cartridges. But before we get into that, if you're new to the channel and this video ends up being helpful, please consider subscribing. Anything printer related is what you will find on this channel. Printer ink installation, printer repairs, printer unboxing, printer advice, anything along those lines is really what you're going to find on this channel. Another primary focus of this channel is helping consumers fix their printers if they're not printing a certain color, they're printing choppy, or they have a general print quality issue. I sell the Best Printers Cleaning Kit. There will be a link for it in the description below, along with links to any other products I talk about in this video. Alright, I hope this video ends up being helpful. If it is, please make sure to like. I have reviewed a number of printers that have come out in the last, I want to say 2, maybe 3 years, which is printers that take bottled ink, such as the Epson EcoTank models, the Canon Mega Tank, and the HP Smart Tank. They all have tanks, and that's all what they all have in common, and that is essentially where the printer has a tank section that has different colors, and you essentially have bottled ink, which has an entire bottle filled with ink that you then place into that ink compartment or that tank, and it fills that up with ink so that the ink system can then take that ink and use it, rather than the standard ink cartridges where you have a print head, you place the ink cartridges right in directly in the print head, and that's the ink system setup. Hopefully I'm explaining it thoroughly and you have somewhat of an idea without me getting too in depth on explaining exactly the functionality of bottled and standard ink cartridges. Now, which one should you go with? Should you buy a printer with standard ink cartridges? There are many of them still on the market, new printers coming out that still have that setup. Or should you go with the bottled ink setup? And at the end of the video, I'll tell you what I personally use and why. So stick with me from now until the end of the video. Really quick, I'll take a break. I do want to share the new video series I'm going to be coming out with, and that is a video series where I show you, the viewer, how to sell printers that you can get at Goodwill, garage sales, or some other thrift store. I do have an ebook that I will be promoting, so look out for that series. Part 1 is already out, and that is essentially, I'm showing you in the video the printers that I purchased from Goodwill, what I was able to sell them for on eBay if they sold, and the whole process. And then there's an ebook that I have attached to that video's description that goes a little bit more in depth. I'm going to be revamping this ebook. In July there's going to be an update, and then in October of this year there's going to be an update, so that you have a pretty good well-rounded idea of what you need to do to be able to sell printers on Amazon and on eBay. So hopefully that applies to somebody out there and somebody finds that information helpful. I will link the video in the description below for the part 1 of reselling Goodwill printers on eBay, Amazon. So I have seen both printers. I have seen the bottled ink printers, and I have seen obviously a lot more of the standard ink cartridge printer models. Now, the claims that are made from the companies themselves for the bottled ink, they claim that you can get 10 times, 15 times more pages printed with the bottled ink versus with the standard ink cartridges, which does make sense. You have to realize that these ink cartridges, they might be this size, but this entire ink cartridge is not completely filled with ink. In other words, there are different compartments within this cartridge that are taking up space, that it's not entirely filled with ink. When you really open this up, just because it's this size does not mean that it's full of ink. So when you compare this to a bottle, you can look in the bottle and it is filled. There's no different compartments. There's nothing you can't see. It is a clear bottle that you can see the ink from top to bottom is completely filled with ink. So you are getting a lot more ink with the ink bottle. So that is one major advantage. The price that you're paying for the bottled ink, I have seen a very, very good pricing. Some of the bottled ink is even less expensive than the ink cartridges. So from my experience, I can verify the claim from these companies that you are getting the best bang for your buck with the ink bottles versus the standard ink cartridges. So why in the world would you go back to an ink cartridge setup? Well, my opinion is because these new ink bottle tank printers, whether it's HP, Canon, or Epson, I believe is a very new technology that still needs to be ironed out a little bit. There are still some downsides to the printers themselves. The printers themselves are a heftier price. There are some features and some quirks about these printers that are still not to the point where I personally would buy one. So if you've made it this far, you're close to the end of the video, because I promised I would share with you whether I would get an ink bottle and the kind of printer that I use. I actually have the Epson Workforce 4740, and these are the ink cartridges that I use. These are the standard ink cartridges. I'm just fine with using this. I currently have not considered using a bottle ink based printer simply because they are a heftier price. I have seen in some instances where the ink in with certain activities can get drained very fast. Depending on your usage, that ink bottle can run out a lot faster than what is marketed. But if it's normal usage, usually you can get a pretty good amount, way more than you can out of these ink cartridges. So I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of in between. Really, I'm just waiting because I have seen some of the issues over time with the tank printers. They are pretty sophisticated, but they still do have some of the common tendencies and common issues that you normally would have with a standard ink cartridge printer. If you go with the standard HP, Epson, Canon, you're going to pay a higher price. The same with the ink cartridges. However, I have found very, very low prices on the ink bottles for certain models. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below. It's going to take you to Amazon's page. If you go through that link, it helps me, it helps the channel, and I do greatly appreciate when you make a purchase through there. It's the same thing with the cleaning kit. When you make a purchase of the cleaning kit, you're supporting me, you're supporting the channel, you're supporting this content that is helping you. So your support is greatly appreciated. So use that link. You can search up, it's gonna take you to a page where you can search up the type of ink that you're looking for, that ink model, and you're gonna type in remanufactured at the end of it. Compare the two prices. If you think it's worth it, I have used remanufactured ink for years. I have never had an issue. They are gonna work just the same, especially when it's bottled ink. You do not need to use the genuine ink, especially on those. With the ink cartridges, I would express a little bit of caution, but with the ink bottles, there's really no difference at all right there. It's just ink. It's the same thing. Just make sure you don't put the black ink into the cyan tank. I have had a lot of people come to me telling me that they did that. That can damage the whole system. You don't want to do that. So just be careful. Make sure you're putting the right colors, the right colored ink, and the right colored tank. If you're going and this video is swaying you in the direction of doing the standard ink cartridges, I say go for it. I use it. I have worked on a ton of printers. I think that either way you go is gonna be good. If you really want to save money on ink, go with the ink bottles. However, keep in mind the printer is going to be more expensive. There are pros and cons to each of these different categories. So you really just have to take all this information into consideration. Also do your own research. Do all the pricing. When you're looking at a printer, look at the ink price. That is very important because you could get into a very cheap printer, but then you have to pay $100 for, I'm not saying I pay $100 for ink, but then you may have to pay $100 for ink every time you have to fill it up. Hopefully that's not the case if you're using remanufactured ink. Through that same link where you can buy ink, you can also buy printers. So if you were, swayed in either direction of buying a standard ink cartridge printer or a bottled ink printer, you can search up the model that you're looking for through that link as well. Again, that helps support me and the channel. Buying printers through Amazon, I do it all the time. You don't have to go out to the store. You kind of cut some time and you're able to receive a package at the front of your door. I have never had a printer come to the front of my door broken or damaged. They do a very good job of transporting them from point A to point B. So consider that. I hope that all this information, all the links, they're all just here as a resource to you. And if they're helpful to you, they end up being helpful to me as well. If you want more videos like this, please like this video. Comment below if this helped you out in any way. If you are looking to make money online selling printers, check out my video where I show you how I buy printers from Goodwill and sell them online. There's also an ebook in the description of that video that I'm attaching. That's really all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.